Hey there, and welcome to Light Novel Sound, where I bring stories to life through voice. Today, we'll embark on a journey into the world of Astral Pet Store by Ancient She. And if you'd like to read along, you can find the original novel at lightnovelworld.co. So, what's not to love about transmigrating into a world full of pets? There are mighty creatures of all shapes and sizes, some cuddly, some fierce, and some, both. And I've even got my own pet store to run. Sounds great, right? Well, not exactly. My younger sister can't stand me. I've got zero talent for handling astral pets. And don't even get me started on the bizarre system I'm stuck with. But hey, it wouldn't be a proper transmigration without a few ridiculous challenges, right? Before we jump in, a huge thank you to Ancient She for creating this incredible story. And if you enjoy the audiobook, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It really helps support the channel and keeps these stories alive in the YouTube world. Alright, let's dive into Astral Pet Store. Chapter 451, Crashing Down. Kid, which family or organization are you from? Lone Star took a step forward and glared at Su Ping coldly. Not even the four ancient families had ever seen the birth of a titled battle pet warrior this young. Lone Star didn't strike the young man directly because he was worried the latter was a secret student of some legendary warrior. None of your business. Su Ping kept a straight face. Lone Star squinted his eyes. Don't you know where you are? You have committed murder here. You will be scolded, even if you're studying under a legendary battle pet warrior. I suggest you behave and let me capture you before I beat you up. Let them stand up. Otherwise, you will stand to suffer more. You're not worthy enough to talk to me like this. Arrogant. The onlookers eyed Su Ping as if he were a fool. Is this young man thinking that he could defeat Lone Star as he did with the guard's leader who was at the lower position of the titled rank? Lone Star is at the peak of the titled rank. One more step and he could become a legendary battle pet warrior. Killing intent burst out from Lone Star's eyes and his face became clouded. He had said his piece. No amount of persuasion or warning would do when the offender was an ignorant fool. Phew! Lone Star unleashed his profound astral powers. He was like a beast breaking out from imprisonment. At that moment, the onlookers had a feeling that Lone Star was growing taller and taller, like a towering mountain. The surge of astral powers gushed out. The onlookers around him could not help but take steps back under the overwhelming pressure. Zhenxiang and Tong Tong had turned pale from fright. As they looked at the skinny young man who was standing in front of the overpowering Lone Star, both the girls were worried and confused. Lone Star was a titled battle pet warrior at the peak. Why wouldn't you lower your head? Was your dignity more important than your life? Deter! Lone Star did not spare any effort. He looked at Su Ping differently. Without any reservation, he chose to directly suppress Su Ping with the vast amount of astral powers inside him. Titled battle pet warriors could unleash astral powers externally. Those at the peak of the titled rank had astral powers much more powerful than those of lower tiers, even though any titled warrior could release astral powers externally. One titled battle pet warrior at the peak could even kill an average titled battle pet warrior within one move. Whoosh! An almost tangible and massive dark blue hand formed by astral powers had just appeared above Su Ping's head. With a gust of wind, the hand pressed down toward Su Ping's head. Lone Star was going to teach Su Ping a lesson about the difference in their strengths. Hey? Su Ping raised his head to look at the huge hand which had been formed out of pure astral powers. What a stupid action. Break! Su Ping didn't choose to counterattack with astral powers directly. Even with the star prism, his astral powers were still weaker than those of a titled battle pet warrior at the peak. Su Ping raised his hand and made a fist. Is he trying to strike back with his fist? Lone Star was surprised. The next second, with a loud and lingering noise, the huge astral power hand was shattered. Su Ping's fist punched through the huge hand and broke free. The astral powers were dispersed to all sides. Lone Star stared at Su Ping in sheer disbelief. This young man dispelled the strike with one punch? Was he even a human being? You're not a worthy opponent. Step back if you wish to stay alive, Su Ping said to Lone Star emotionlessly. That was not meant to be a warning. It was but a piece of honest advice. Lone Star looked awful. He took a deep breath and worry appeared in his eyes. He had thought that Su Ping was just an average titled battle pet warrior. But from that punch, he could tell that Su Ping was equal to him in strength. There was a chance that the young man was a physical arts practitioner, which was rare. Lone Star had reason to believe that Su Ping was older than he looked. The young man was demonstrating a strength that could not be found in a 20-year-old. As a matter of fact, at that thought, Lone Star was a bit relieved. If Su Ping were an old freak himself, then the chance of a legendary battle pet warrior being his backer would be lower. Please step back. Lone Star squinted his eyes and cautioned the onlookers. While he said those words, a swirl appeared behind him. A gush of dark energy gushed out. Deep within that swirl there had to be a world where demons lived. The onlookers could not believe that Lone Star was about to summon a battle pet, which was proof that Lone Star was unable to defeat Su Ping by himself. Lone Star was at the peak of the titled rank. That young man had become more and more mysterious in their eyes. Was he also at the peak of the titled rank? Many onlookers were too scared to linger around. They immediately distanced themselves from the fight and carefully set up astral shields over themselves. Although the astral shields that they had built were as fragile as pieces of paper, they could still get some sense of security. Some even summoned battle pets that were good at defense to protect them. Roar! A muffled but shocking voice came out from the swirl behind Lone Star. Following that, the light dimmed down as if eaten up by something. 3 huge heads snuck out from the swirl. That battle pet had 3 snake-like heads and a lower body that was shaped like a huge spider. That was the Ghost Dom Serpent, the 4th most powerful battle pet of the demon family. As the Ghost Dom Serpent stepped out, the entire conference room was filled with a foul smell of blood. The hideous look of the Ghost Dom Serpent had scared most of the trainers, who were pale-faced. The Ghost Dom Serpent was a vicious and barbaric battle pet of the demon family. Even some of the top trainers would prefer staying clear of this beast, worried that they would be killed by it during training. Kill him! Lone Star gave the order to his Ghost Dom Serpent. Roar! Roar! The 3 heads of the Ghost Dom Serpent turned to where Su Ping was. There was a glow in those red eyes as they looked down on that puny human being. Su Ping slowly raised his head and stared back at the Ghost Dom Serpent. The calmness over his face shifted to coldness at that moment. Killing intent seeped out from him and occupied his eyes. Force field. The space behind Su Ping began to twist. An ancient and vast world emerged. That was a world full of the smell of death, countless corpses, and many fiendish figures. In the middle of the world sat a skeleton emperor that was sitting on a high-rising throne. A gush of energy that could overturn the world surged out from behind Su Ping. Su Ping had to raise his head to look at the Ghost Dom Serpent, but he was conveying his contempt through his eyes. The violence in the Ghost Dom Serpent's eyes receded gradually. Its instincts kicked in. A gut feeling told the Ghost Dom Serpent to stay away from that prey. However, Lone Star had already given his order and the Ghost Dom Serpent could not fight back. In this conundrum, the Ghost Dom Serpent made a decision. The 3 heads bellowed at the same time and 3 different skills were unleashed. Annihilation Ray. The Flame of Hades. Demonic Roar. All 3 skills were at the 9th rank. The thing that made the Ghost Dom Serpent scarier than the other battle pets of the 9th rank was that it could use different skills at the same time. In some way, one would be fighting against 3 beasts at the peak of the 9th rank at the same time. The first skill unleashed was the deterring demonic roar. That was a skill that could overwhelm the enemy, also as an aid in encouraging itself. As the Ghost Dom Serpent roared, the fear in its heart was diminished. The 3 serpent heads were even more twisted. Su Ping gazed at the Ghost Dom Serpent. The impact of the demonic roar even stirred up the red carpet. Even though the roar was directed at him, Su Ping remained unaffected. The Annihilation Ray followed. An astral shield came out in front of Su Ping, but it soon cracked. The annihilation ray's strength was reduced a bit and then landed on Su Ping's chest. His clothes were burned off. However, underneath his clothes and over his chest, a golden scale appeared which fended off the annihilation ray. Ajos. That was one of the Dragon King's treasures taking effect. The treasure could fend off strikes from enemies at the void state, let alone stop a 9th-ranked strike. The flame of Hades surged over to where Su Ping was, but the golden scale also took care of it. All 3 skills were rendered useless at the same time. The ghost serpent stood in a daze. It was beyond its comprehension that all 3 skills had failed. The killing intent in Lone Star's eyes turned into astonishment. Ineffective? But how? While Lone Star was still standing in confusion, Su Ping had started to fight back. The force field disappeared and all the demons and fiends seemed to have leaped into his eyes in an instant. Then, Su Ping stepped forward. With that forceful step, the entire floor shook and so did the building. Su Ping leaped forward. Trying to kill me? Then face the consequences. Fist of Exorcist. Boom! The glow from the fist illuminated the world. The wind stirred up by the punch had overturned the tables and chairs. The noise generated by the punch made the walls crack as if a bomb had gone off in the room. While the ghost serpent was still staring at the fist with a dull look in its eyes, the fist had landed on the head in the middle. The next second, the entire conference room crashed down. Chapter 452, A Talk. Boom! The ghost serpent was hurled by the hit, smashing through the walls of the conference room and landing on the plaza outside, breaking several luxury cars parked nearby. The serpent's head that Su Ping had punched had been reduced into a piece of flesh, a pool of blood was formed, and even the remains had been blown away. The other 2 serpents' heads were bleeding through the scales as well. The ghost serpent was getting lightheaded. In the conference room, many portraits of master trainers tumbled down as the walls cracked by the impact. Those inside quickly fled from the conference room, running in different directions. Few people got hurt. The trainers were not strong in combat, but given the fact that this was a minor disaster where a building was falling, anyone with astral powers of the 3rd or 4th rank would have escaped unharmed. Whoosh! 2 people flew out. It was Su Ping and Lone Star. Lone Star remained in utter shock. At that moment, he even felt suffocated because of the pressure coming off from the young man. Was the young man merely at the titled rank? How about you get a taste of my fist? Su Ping glared at Lone Star. Electric arcs emerged under Su Ping's feet. He dashed over at an incredible speed and punched at Lone Star. Frightened, the moment Lone Star noticed the power of the punch, he turned around and ran without the slightest hesitation. He ran at full speed. Whoosh! In an instant, Lone Star had traversed more than 1,000 meters. In the meantime, the Wind Chanter had also moved closer to him. With the Wind Chanter's help, Lone Star was able to speed up further. Su Ping missed his target. But the punch did make a huge pit on the ground. Su Ping was forced to stop. He raised his head and stared at Lone Star, who was hiding in the distance. Su Ping knew that he couldn't be as fast as one at the peak of the titled rank. Lone Star heaved a sigh of relief to see Su Ping stopping. Only then did Lone Star notice that he was covered in a cold sweat. What a narrow escape. If it weren't for the fact that Su Ping couldn't teleport, Lone Star would have believed that the young man was actually at the legendary rank. Lone Star turned his head and darted a glance at the ghost serpent which was lying on the ground, barely breathing, and its smashed head. Lone Star immediately summoned a healing pet to treat the ghost serpent. In the meantime, Lone Star summoned another 2 battle pets as he kept his gaze on Su Ping, highly alerted. Su Ping stood in the air. He didn't continue his attack. He didn't kill people just for killing's sake. He was winning a chance for communicating as equals. If the Trainers Association was still unwilling to treat him seriously after he had demonstrated his strength, he would not mind taking things to another level. Many trainers had come out from the collapsed building. Some master trainers and the guards summoned astral shields to escort some trainers that were weaker in strength. Everyone was dumbstruck as they looked at the collapsed building. Then, they noticed the young man who was standing in the air. The onlookers, to their surprise, realized what had happened. Just then, everything went down too fast for them to see clearly how Su Ping and Lone Star had fought. The result was clear. Lone Star had summoned his battle pet and had still been unable to bring Su Ping down. Who on earth is that young man? As the building tumbled down, the loud noise was spread across the headquarters of the Trainers Association. Many titled battle pet warriors who were elsewhere and other master trainers hurried over, either flying or running. Soon, several titled battle pet warriors had arrived. When those people saw the Ghost Serpent and Lone Star, they were even more baffled, wondering about what produced such an outcome. They went closer to ask about the details from Lone Star. But Lone Star still kept his eyes on Su Ping, not paying attention to the people questioning him. Lone Star was then certain that he couldn't defeat Su Ping. Those average titled battle pet warriors who had arrived were definitely inferior to Su Ping. He would remain unbeatable unless more titled battle pet warriors at the peak arrived. But Su Ping appeared to be secure, acting as one who had a strong backing, which must be the reason why he dared to create troubles there. As such, Lone Star was afraid of the force Su Ping belonged to. Up until then, Lone Star was unable to determine Su Ping's background. He had gathered some fame in the circle of titled battle pet warriors and he knew most of those at the peak. Still, he had never heard of this young man. Besides, he could tell that there were more secrets about Su Ping than he let on. Was Su Ping a legendary battle pet warrior? Not likely. On the other hand, the abilities that Su Ping demonstrated were stronger than those of other titled battle pet warriors at the peak of their rank and presumably stronger than him. At least, Lone Star knew he couldn't have crushed the Ghost Serpent so easily. His pet was more powerful than he was. He might even lose to the Ghost Serpent in a fight, let alone defeating it with a single move. On the ground, Master Bai as well as many other master trainers had stepped outside the ruins. They were still in great shock. They were all aware of Lone Star's strength. But it turned out that not even Lone Star was able to take Su Ping down. Lone Star was at the peak of the titled rank. He was someone who was second only to legendary battle pet warriors. Titled battle pet warriors at the peak who worked at the headquarters of the Trainers Association were few and far between. Only the top trainers could have forged some friendship with those battle pet warriors like Lone Star. All the master trainers had to tread carefully when they were in the presence of battle pet warriors at the peak of the titled rank. After all, the latter mastered battle pets with 9th rank bloodlines. Only top trainers could have helped those battle pets advance. In the meantime, Shahaoqi and his friends were staring at Su Ping with mouths agape. It never occurred to them that Su Ping would be so threatening. He had punched a titled battle pet warrior to death and had just shown his ability to defeat Lone Star. Not even Shahaoqi was able to believe that Su Ping was a trainer. No trainer could do that. Whoosh! Whoosh! More and more people arrived. In an instant, dozens of people had arrived and they were all titled battle pet warriors. To their astonishment, the building had tumbled down. They had been working at the headquarters of the Trainers Association for years and yet they had never met anyone with the guts to put up a fight there. What is going on? All of a sudden, a group of people came rushing from the crowd of onlookers. The leader of the group was a gray-haired old man in his 60s. He looked full of life and his eyes were as clear as those of a man in his youth. The man was wearing a dark robe with a golden hem. He was well dressed and there was a hexagonal medal he wore on his chest. The medal indicated that this man was a top trainer. It was usual that top trainers no longer needed to wear the medal to verify their identities, given their fame. Sometimes, they wouldn't even bother to wear their distinctive robes. However, this old man's robe appeared to be neat and well taken care of. The onlookers breathed in relief after their initial surprise to see the old man. It's the vice chairman. Look, the Fire Lord came with the vice chairman. The vice chairman is here. I wonder what will happen to that young man. The onlookers gazed at the group. Lone Star was relieved to see the vice chairman and the Fire Lord making their way over. He reached them in a dash. He darted a glance at Su Ping and then quickly told the two what happened. The vice-chairman sized up Su Ping in surprise. Standing behind the vice-chairman was the Fire Lord. He was strong and had hair red as fire. Instead of black, the Fire Lord's eyes were crimson-colored. Fire Lord squinted his eyes as Lone Star told the story. He and Lone Star were both at the peak of the titled rank. They had never gotten into a big fight, but they would practice together now and then. Fire Lord knew Lone Star's Ghost Dom serpent very well. Fire Lord looked worried as he looked at the Ghost Dom serpent that was lying on the ground while receiving treatment. "Are you the trainer from the Longjiang base city that we invited?" the vice-chairman asked Su Ping. Instead of sounding furious, his tone was quite friendly. Su Ping nodded to him. "I lost my invitation, but yes, I am the one." The vice-chairman nodded. "Why the commotion, then?" "Master Sha explained my identity, but they did not trust me. That Master Ding claimed that he would ban me, so I taught him a lesson. As for the others, they attacked me without a good reason, so I had to punish them." "Nonsense!" From the ruins climbed out a man. It was Master Ding, whom Su Ping had forced down to his knees. Since Su Ping was elsewhere, Master Ding had already crawled up. Due to the humiliation, Master Ding was so overwhelmed by wrath that he wasn't in his sane mind. "Vice-chairman, do not listen to him. He's talking nonsense. Kill him. Not even death could help him atone for his sins. What will become of the headquarters of the Trainers Association if he's not punished with death?" His angry yell echoed across the quiet plaza. The onlookers could not believe what a mess Master Ding was in. It was unexpected that he would be so irritated by the humiliation. On the other hand, it was understandable. That insult that came with kneeling in public would have been unbearable for any of them. Su Ping darted him a glare. He flicked his finger and a puff of astral powers reached toward Master Ding like a sword. "Well?" The Fire Lord was alerted while standing behind the vice-chairman. Su Ping still had the guts to use violence when the vice-chairman was present. How audacious! A glint of red glow rose in the Fire Lord's eyes. A gust of burning astral powers flew out and bumped into Su Ping's astral powers. The two energies cancelled each other. Su Ping raised his eyebrows and cast a questioning look at the Fire Lord. The fact that Su Ping did this was also a surprise to the vice-chairman, who had underestimated Su Ping's rage. "I remember the one we invited is named Su Ping. Are you Mr. Su? There must be some mistake. I hope we can sit down and have a talk. If Master Ding was the one who started it, I will make sure that he'll properly apologize to you." Su Ping did not expect that the vice-chairman would be so reasonable. People like Master Bai would have scolded him without asking, of course. Su Ping agreed, which was to the vice-chairman and Lone Star's relief. The latter indeed was afraid of another round of contention. He wasn't sure of bringing Su Ping down even if he and the Fire Lord were to work together. After all, Lone Star's major pet, the Ghost Dom serpent, had been disabled in a single exchange. Lone Star knew that he could not have survived Su Ping's punch. "Mr. Su, come with me. Master Bai, and you guys, come with me and tell me the details," the vice-chairman said to Su Ping and to the others. He also grabbed Master Bai, Shahaoqi, and Ding Fengchun, who were standing in the ruins. "Vice-chairman!" Ding Fengchun shouted. Just then, Su Ping's strike had pulled him back to reality from his blinding rage. Even though he had come back to his senses, he was still unhappy to hear the vice-chairman's decision. But he received no reply from the vice-chairman, who was talking to an old man standing behind him. "Please keep an eye on this place and lock the flow of information. The conference will be postponed to the afternoon." "Okay," the old man said, casting a glance at Su Ping. The vice-chairman left without saying another word. The Fire Lord went after the vice-chairman. Master Bai was still standing there, baffled. It never occurred to him that the vice-chairman would not fly into a rage and capture Su Ping after all the destruction he had caused. Was it because of Su Ping's strength? Master Bai wondered. He decided to face the music. Master Bai was a bit scared since not even Lone Star was able to defeat him. Worried that Su Ping would hurt people in a fit of rage, Master Bai was afraid to walk too closely to him. He wouldn't have been so cautious if he were with other titled battle pet warriors. However, he had to be extra careful at the moment since the young man was a wild one who dared to stir up trouble at their headquarters. No one could foresee what a lunatic would do. Chapter 453, Su Ping taking the test. In a magnificent building. There was a huge, oval office. The vice-chairman sat in his seat with the Fire Lord and Lone Star standing behind him. They were demonstrating their status, while guarding against Su Ping at the same time. To the left of vice-chairman, Master Bai and Ding Fengchun took their seats. Next to them, Shahaoqi, Dai Lemao, and Chen were seated. As for Zhenxiang, Tong Tong, and the other young people, they were standing behind their respective father or teacher quietly. If it weren't for the fact that they had interacted with Su Ping to some extent, they wouldn't have been allowed to be there. To the vice-chairman's right were a dozen empty seats and Su Ping was the only one sitting on one of them. That is what happened. Shahaoqi gave an honest explanation. As instructed by the vice-chairman, Shahaoqi explained how he had met Su Ping, the way he verified Su Ping's identity, and a full recount of the things that happened that day, not sparing any details. Everyone turned their sights to Ding Fengchun after Shahaoqi's explanation. No one expected that this fierce battle had started because of a mere argument. Of course, it was against anyone's expectation that Su Ping would kill Xiao Fengshu in public. What an audacious guy. Lone Star and the Fire Lord looked at each other speechlessly. Both knew that they wouldn't have such courage. Master Bai didn't look well. If it turned out that Su Ping was what he claimed he was, then Ding Fengchun was the one in the wrong. Ding Fengchun threatened to banish Su Ping from the Trainers Association forever after a mere argument. That was to shut Su Ping out from the Trainers Society directly. For anyone who was making a living as a trainer, cutting off their career was to cut off their lifeline. That would be hardly acceptable for anyone. In most cases, submitting to humiliation would be the solution. However, it just so happened that Ding Fengchun was dealing with a lunatic who dared to vent his anger in public, right at the headquarters of the Trainers Association. Ding Fengchun wore a very interesting look. With anger, he cast a glare at Shahaoqi. What? Do you think you're an automobile data recorder, listening to all the details? At that moment, he still resented Su Ping but regretted his actions at the same time. Xiao Fengshu and Su Ping's argument had nothing to do with him. He merely meddled because he didn't like Su Ping's tone. He never thought that he could have gotten into such trouble. Is that what happened? The vice-chairman asked Dai Lemao and Chen. Dai Lemao and Chen glanced at Shahaoqi and then Ding Fengchun. They eventually nodded. The vice-chairman turned to the other master trainers present. They first trained their eyes on Ding Fengchun. Nevertheless, they also nodded. Facts were facts. They could not lie to defend Ding Fengchun in that place. Vice-chairman, I didn't know who Su Ping was. Master Sha had introduced him but I thought he was joking. I could not tolerate that man's foul mouth so I scolded him. Ding Fengchun filed his teeth. He could not overturn the fact but he wasn't going to admit his mistake so easily. The vice-chairman frowned. Master Sha is a master trainer. Do you think a master trainer would joke about such things? Besides, if he was foul-mouthed, that is a problem of his personal character. However, you threatened to banish him. You would have practically doomed him if he were just an average trainer. Ding Fengchun was surprised. Vice-chairman, whose side are you taking? The one who behaved atrociously is an outsider. The vice-chairman could read what Ding Fengchun was thinking from his expression but said nothing in reply. Indeed, Su Ping was an outsider and he had done things that were practically a slap on the face to the Trainers Association. That being said, there were underlying reasons. For those mistakes, the vice-chairman knew he had to deal a severe punishment. Su Ping was not a pushover. On the other hand, Ding Fengchun's actions would have ruined the future of any no-name trainer. He had to look at the big picture. For some master trainers, their target was to move higher on the ladder and become a top trainer. But, given his vice chairman status, he had to have a bigger vision and think about the trainers as a group. The group would only develop when everyone could progress. Every piece of humble rubble was essential when it came to constructing tall buildings. The trainers working at the headquarters of the Trainers Association despised trainers who didn't work there. The trainers in the Holy Light base city despised trainers from other base cities. That was a well-developed chain of contempt. But it should not exist. You are all master trainers and the headquarters have granted things to you according to merit, plus you were bestowed great powers. But you must know that is not a reason for you to act willfully, the vice chairman said with a cold tone. He had long wanted to correct their behavior when trainers abused their powers, but he had not found the opportunity and the right excuses. Ding Fengchun turned a bit pale upon hearing the vice chairman's words. But he still felt wronged. He had knelt in public. That was the greatest source of anger for him. He still felt he had not done anything wrong by claiming to banish Su Ping. He just regretted being nosy. Vice Chairman, how can you be sure that he is some master trainer just based on one name? You saw it just now and Lone Star can back me up. This man is a titled battle pet warrior while I am a master trainer. It is reasonable for me to have banned his training career when he offended me. Ding Fengchun found more excuses. He would have to apologize to Su Ping again if he admitted his wrongdoing. He was not going to. He was the one humiliated. The vice chairman's eyebrows were knitted even tighter. He knew that Ding Fengchun was not going to see his fault easily and was still struggling. That was understandable, though. As a matter of fact, the vice chairman did not mean for Ding Fengchun to apologize to Su Ping again. After all, Su Ping had made Ding Fengchun kneel. They were technically even. At the same time, Ding Fengchun did make a good point. The vice chairman turned to Shahaoqi. He remembered how Shahaoqi called him yesterday to ask about Su Ping. Also, in his long life, he had never seen any trainer achieve such accomplishments in combat strength like Su Ping. The vice chairman had clearly seen what happened to the Ghost Dom Serpent. It was appalling to find that Su Ping was able to beat that battle pet when he didn't even summon a battle pet of his own. The vice chairman was aware that Lone Star was no match for Su Ping. That was to say, Su Ping was most likely at the peak of the titled rank, or at least had abilities on par with such a rank. He might even have abilities close to the legendary rank. Shahaoqi was staring at Su Ping as well. He had placed his trust in Su Ping. However, even Shahaoqi had questions after that battle. He was considering whether he had made a mistake. Mr. Su, do you have a trainer's ID? The vice chairman asked after some thought. The trainer's ID was a proof of authenticity for any trainer, especially the master trainer ID. The ID card had iris recognition and fingerprint chips. The ID could prove the holder's identity and could never be faked. No. Su Ping shook his head. I'm here because of your invitation. I also decided to take this chance to take the test. I'm eager to find out how the tests work while I pick up some general knowledge at the same time. You don't have one? The vice chairman was surprised that Su Ping would admit this so readily. Did you lose it or? Never had one. You see? Ding Fengchun slapped the table. Riled up, he shouted, I told you he's not a master trainer. He didn't even pass the test. He cannot be a master trainer. Su Ping cast him a glare from the corner of his eye. I meant that I've never taken the test, not even the test for the first rank. I am self-taught. Ding Fengchun stood in a daze. The vice chairman was baffled as well. Self-taught? He had seen the video and was amazed. He was very much interested in that trainer, which was why he had been treating Su Ping so nicely after he knew who he was. You mean you've never been to the Trainers Association for a test? Yep. The vice chairman was speechless. It took him a while to digest the information. So, Su Ping was a self-taught master trainer who had never taken a test? How outrageous. Never took the test, heh? What a lousy excuse. I think it's just you who cannot come up with a better one. Since you said you had never taken one, do you want to try the test here? We have a complete set of equipment for testing. Ding Fengchun sneered at Su Ping. Moments before, he was not so sure whether Su Ping was a fake. But then he was absolutely confident that Su Ping was a liar after his responses. A liar found his way to the headquarters. Ding Fengchun could accuse Su Ping of a sinister plot. Of course I will take it, but don't you ever think I'll forget about you so easily. Su Ping squinted his eyes. Ding Fengchun pulled a long face. I will kneel before you again if you can pass the tests and prove that you're indeed a master trainer. But if you cannot pass the test, you will kneel and apologize to me in public. That is all I want. Deal? If he could make Su Ping kneel to him, he would be able to recover some of his dignity in the end. In the future, he wouldn't feel that bad when he met other trainer colleagues. Besides, he planned on making Su Ping kneel first and then figure out why he had snuck his way into the headquarters. Revenge after humiliation was even more enjoyable. At this thought, Ding Fengchun could not help but flash a smug grin. I didn't think people could be so stupid before I met you. Su Ping laughed out loud. True, he had never taken the tests, but he believed his abilities should be enough to reach the master trainer status. Previously, outside the cultivation sites, he could only qualify as a battle pet warrior. However, thanks to the recent instruction received from the system, he had become an elementary trainer. And that was based on the system's evaluation. According to what he learned about trainers, he could do things that other master trainers could not do. Furiously, Ding Fengchun stood up and screamed, Vice Chairman, look, he is verbally insulting me again. The Vice Chairman. Chapter 454, Evolution. It was ridiculous for Ding Fengchun to make that proposal. That being said, the Vice Chairman didn't interfere when the two parties involved didn't back down. He was also eager to find out what Su Ping could do. The special training of the Moonfrost Dragon shown in the video had stirred up his interest. The test had not started yet, but the Vice Chairman did hope that Su Ping could prove himself to be an authentic trainer. Although, the Vice Chairman knew the chances were low. On the other hand, if it turned out that Su Ping was indeed a trainer, then the Vice Chairman would inquire how Su Ping had trained the Moonfrost Dragon. Its improvement was truly remarkable, quite comprehensive. The Vice Chairman could not help but get a little excited, thinking that he might find out the answer. Please, let's go to the test center. The Vice Chairman stood up. Neither Su Ping nor Ding Fengchun had anything to say against that decision. The others followed them as well. They had nothing better to do anyway. Besides, they were eager to find out how this entire mess would come to an end. The Fire Lord and Lone Star were not interested in an argument among trainers, but they were curious about Su Ping's tests. The young man had demonstrated abilities that frightened the two of them, especially Lone Star. Having fought against Su Ping in person, he was well aware that Su Ping could still defeat him, even if he were to cooperate with the Fire Lord. Su Ping must be at the very peak of the titled rank. The best of the best. If Su Ping had trainer skills when he was such a formidable battle pet warrior already, Lone Star's confidence would suffer a severe blow. He did have some level of pride. Soon, they arrived at the test center. There were other trainers who showed up this day for their own tests. The test center was crowded, and it had been like this every day. The trainers waiting their turn were startled when the Vice Chairman arrived with Su Ping, two battle pet warriors at the peak of the titled rank and many master trainers. What is going on? The things that happened in the conference room didn't alarm the people present due to the distance. The people about to take a test had been able to hear some loud noises, but they didn't pay them any mind. Besides, even if they were told that some people were fighting there, they would have laughed their heads off. Mr. Su, which one do you want to start with? The Vice Chairman asked Su Ping. The first rank test, then, Su Ping answered. Since he was there, he was interested to find out what trainers of each rank had to know, which should be common knowledge for the other trainers. First rank? Sure. The Vice Chairman was surprised but did not advise Su Ping against it. Ding Fengchun sneered. It is pointless to put off the inevitable. Su Ping glared at him. Asking another beating? Ding Fengchun was frightened by the look in Su Ping's eyes. Although unhappy, he didn't talk back. No matter if Fire Lord and Lone Star were there, as well as the vice-chairman, what Su Ping did had left a mark on Ding Fengchun. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't tolerate the humiliation, he would have rather befriended Su Ping. The man was definitely not a random person. The best decision was to befriend such a man instead of offending him. Unfortunately, for Ding Fengchun, disaster had emanated from a careless remark. He had offended Su Ping as things stood. He didn't think Su Ping would appreciate his nice gesture even if he could let go of his dignity. That would bring more shame to him. After all, he had to continue his work at the headquarters. If he were to surrender then, what would his students and other trainers think of him? Please, the vice-chairman said to Su Ping. Su Ping followed him to the location for the first test. The first rank test is quite simple. For one, the trainer has to master elementary taming skills. For another, the trainer should master simple astral power synchronization, theoretical knowledge, the vice-chairman introduced. There were no examiners present. Rarely would anyone come to the headquarters for the test of the first rank. Theory. Su Ping curled his lips. What a vicious test. Well, let's start with the second rank test. Does it require theoretical knowledge as well? Su Ping asked. The vice-chairman was surprised that Su Ping didn't know such simple information. On second thought, he remembered Su Ping was self-taught. Sure. We don't have more tests on theory from the second rank and up. The rest are all practical. Let's do it then. Second-rank trainers need to tame a beast and taint a white mouse's fur black within 15 minutes, the vice-chairman stated. The white mice sure were all-purpose. Even a trainer's test would need them. Let me try it, Su Ping said. He had never done it before, so he wasn't sure if he could succeed. Dye the fur black. If he had some hair dye, he would have made it happen within 1 instant. It was the first time for Su Ping to hear about dyeing fur with astral powers. The onlookers were questioning Su Ping's abilities. Could he do it? Zhenxiang and Tong Tong stood behind Shahaoqi. Worried, they looked at Su Ping, who was standing side by side with the vice-chairman. They were concerned about him, and at the same time afraid their dad would be implicated because of Su Ping. They often worried about their frank and too straightforward dad. Soon, they entered the room. The examiner was overseeing a participant who was a teenage boy. At the moment, the boy was dyeing the hair. Su Ping saw that the young man was holding an innocent white mouse in his hand, exerting great effort as if he were constipated. Half of the white mouse's fur had been tainted black. Su Ping observed how the astral powers flowed with great interest. He understood the mechanism soon after. This was to test the trainer's control of astral powers. For trainers, astral powers were like scalpels, and manipulating them required great precision. The vice-chairman explained the reason for their visit to the examiner, who had been startled by the group. The examiner gazed at Su Ping for a bit when he found out that this was the man who would be tested. The examiner didn't think of Su Ping as a person who had created a disturbance at the headquarters, but as some big potatoes kid. Soon, the examiner took out a second-rank rotting claw lizard which was over 1 meter long. The brownish lizard was poisonous, a savage beast. Su Ping didn't know anything about taming skills. But he used some astral powers to frighten the little thing into submission and had thus passed the first part of the test. Coming up next would be to dye the little white mouse's hair. The examiner gave Su Ping a cage with a little white mouse inside. Su Ping opened the door and grabbed the little white mouse. The furry ball was indeed adorable. He was still nervous, even though he had found out what he was expected to do. He thought of the method he had just learned from the young man and poured astral powers into the white mouse. The test was to use the astral powers to stimulate the growth of other chromatophores in the white mouse and use more astral powers to stimulate growth. Soon, the white mouse's fur began to change color. It turned black and then blood red. Su Ping thought of an idea. He secretly poured into some astral powers that contained electric energy. Immediately, the white mouse's fur turned purple and there seemed to be some bolts of lightning hidden amid its hair. What? The vice-chairman, Master Bai, Shahaoqi, and all the others were struck dumb. They could make the color change many times as well, but what was the thing with the bolts of lightning? Not even Master Bai and the vice chairman could comprehend that shift. Su Ping put the mouse with purple fur down. BZZ. The mouse seemed to be quite excited, even a little bit agitated. The critter patted the cage and electric sparks were still jumping around. Su Ping was happy since his experiment had worked. The little white mouse was more than a mouse at the moment. It had been able to evolve. If the white mouse were to be put into the wild, there was a chance that it could become a low-rank beast of the Thunder family. Chapter 455, 7th Rank Test. Did I pass it? Yep. The examiner nodded at once. The white mouse's fur was like a rainbow. Of course, Su Ping had passed the test. But just to be safe, he checked the little white mouse as part of the routine. He received an electric shock the second his finger touched the cage. There was a tingling pain on the tip of his finger. The voltage was not low. The examiner eyed the white mouse, full of questions. Let's go. Su Ping turned around and left without delay. The vice chairman and Master Bai noticed the strangeness of the white mouse. They wanted to check the creature again but decided to go after Su Ping first. Before he left, the vice chairman said to the examiner, "Keep that little thing for me." He made it sound like he was going to cook the little rodent. Ding Fengchun didn't look happy while witnessing this among the crowd. Su Ping had just passed the second test, but he was exhibiting a level of confidence that frightened him. That young man did no training skills. Ding Fengchun wondered if the Su Ping could enjoy a smooth ride for the remainder of the tests. Soon, it was time for the third rank test. Su Ping had to practice his skills on a real beast. The mission was to make a beast at the peak of the second rank progress to the third rank. The beast at the peak of the second rank had been at such a state for a long time and was on the verge of a breakthrough. Therefore, the mission wasn't a particularly hard one. The beasts were nurtured and raised specifically for the third rank test. The rank they were at had been tested by professional devices. Usually trainers would apply astral powers as a training skill, which was a must-learn for elementary-level trainers. The trainers would pour out their astral powers, converting them into the beast's energy. The conversion rate was low and much astral power would be wasted. However, this skill was enough to propel a breakthrough for beasts that were stuck at a bottleneck. During the test, Su Ping realized he knew next to nothing about some skills that should be a common thing for most of the trainers. Even though he couldn't convert his astral powers directly, he could imbue the beast with other energy. For example, taking advantage of the rules of thunder. For the third rank test, Su Ping didn't choose that. He turned to the way he was most skilled at. Inspiration by death. Deterrence. Just one look and the second rank storm ear rabbit lost its mind. Just as the storm ear rabbit squeaked wildly to his intimidation, it reached the third rank directly. That was the highest rank a storm ear rabbit could reach, limited by its bloodline. The storm ear rabbit would have to evolve for it to climb to a higher rank. Su Ping had an accurate control of his killing intent. He let out enough killing intent that could make the little rabbit feel danger and despair, but not so much that it could drive the little thing crazy. Under that level of stimulation, the storm ear rabbit made the breakthrough. It was so quick that even Su Ping was surprised by the result. The vice chairman, Master Bai, Shahaoqi, and everyone else were struck dumb. This was the first time for them to see a method like that. Although astonished, the vice chairman was amazed. It was true. Trainers from other base cities could come up with unorthodox and creative ways. One could not say that the unconventional ways were wrong. After all, those methods had also been proven effective with repeated practice. Such methods could turn out to be more useful than traditional training skills. The other test participants would have acted by the book, using their astral powers directly. Afterward, Su Ping passed the following tests from the 4th, 5th, and the 6th rank. Soon, they reached the area where the 7th rank test was. The tests were becoming increasingly harder and the missions had become more diversified. For example, in the 6th rank test, the trainers were required to better the beast's constitution and at the same time, arouse a killing intent in the beast. The beast's character played a big role in the beast's strength. A mild beast was like a flower in a greenhouse. On the other hand, violent beasts could deter other beasts of the same rank easily. Some rare and barbaric beasts could even overwhelm beasts at a higher rank. All lay low on the willing horse. That saying really made sense. To nurture the cruelty in a beast was something trainers had to learn. Then came the 7th rank test. The onlookers were filled with mixed feelings. They had reached this point so quickly. It was as if the tests were as simple as they could get for Su Ping. No one could claim that Su Ping was not a trainer at this point. Having passed the 6th rank test, Su Ping was at least a 6th rank trainer. For a person his age, according to his appearance, that was a stunning enough achievement. Besides, Su Ping had proven that he was not a liar. His name was Su Ping and came from the Longjiang base city. He was a trainer. While he had not taken the 8th rank test yet, people had already decided that Su Ping had to be the person who had been invited. The vice-chairman could barely contain his excitement. Knowing that the miraculous Moonfrost Dragon had been trained by Su Ping, the vice-chairman wished he could drag Su Ping to some place private to have a good discussion about that. Shi Haoqi was gloating, his trust had paid off. Su Ping was indeed the guest they were expecting among the crowd. Ding Fengchun had been walking around silently. He wished time could travel slowly, just so that he could delay the moment he would have to kneel in front of Su Ping. He would slap himself in the face if he could turn back time. He was close to the Xiao family, which was why he stood out for Xiao Fengshu when they argued. Back then, Ding Fengchun couldn't have foreseen that he was setting himself up. People said that one should stand with those on the side of reason, and not be moved by entreaty, prayer, or tears from friends or relatives. People were right. If Ding Fengchun had been reasonable, none of this would have happened. At the moment, Ding Fengchun was not in the mood to argue with Su Ping anymore. Su Ping was a person that was both a battle pet warrior and a trainer. There had to be someone teaching Su Ping. Such a person was not someone he could afford to displease. He truly is a trainer. Standing by the vice-chairman, both Fire Lord and Lone Star shared bitter feelings. Their confidence was crushed. They didn't have so much energy to train to become battle pet warriors while studying training skills at the same time, not to mention making great achievements in both fields. Mr. Su, we have no examiners here. I'll be your examiner, the vice-chairman said. He could not wait to find out how Su Ping was going to finish this test. Up until that moment, Su Ping had never used a method he had seen before. Every time, Su Ping would use an unconventional way, which was both surprising and stunning. Works for me, Su Ping answered. He wasn't afraid that the vice-chairman would trick him. On the off chance that he tried such a thing, he would just make another scene. The vice-chairman smiled and showed Su Ping the way. He didn't have Su Ping tame a beast. Rather, he directly took Su Ping to the location where training skills were tested. I believe Mr. Su can contain any beast under the 9th rank. So, taming skills are unimportant to you. The vice-chairman laughed. From the previous tests, he could tell that Su Ping had no mastery of taming skills. Yet, given Su Ping's horrifying strength, that was not a problem. After all, taming skills were used by trainers who aimed at subduing much stronger beasts. Su Ping would frighten the beasts so much that they would shudder and allow Su Ping do anything to them. That deterrence worked better than any taming skill. Su Ping nodded. The test on taming skills was surely pointless. Zhenxiang and Tongtong were still following the crowd. All of a sudden, they remembered what had happened the day before, when they saw Su Ping there. That dragon had lost control. They thought the dragon was going to hurt Su Ping when it suddenly got down to the ground, shivering. They thought the dragon had gotten sick. After all, anyone would have to surrender to the calls of nature and girls had to suffer for a few days every month. The two girls thought it was the same thing for the beasts. Then, they realized that the beast had been intimidated by Su Ping. The two girls were frustrated, since they had worked so hard but failed to control the beast when Su Ping could deter it so easily. Why were they so much weaker than him? For the 7th rank test, you can choose any one of the 3 beasts. You can either better its constitution or enhance its skills. The time limit is 2 hours. You will pass the test if your work is up to standard, the vice chairman said to Su Ping. He handed an illustration with 3 beasts to Su Ping. The 3 beasts were of the combat family, the element family, and the demon family respectively. The one from the demon family was the most difficult of all. But if he could succeed, he could get a higher score. Of course, anyone passing the 7th rank test, regardless of the score, would be a 7th rank trainer. Still, there was a difference in the group as well. Take getting to college as an example. Of the students admitted to the same college, some would have had a higher score while some might barely manage to pass. Chapter 456, Evolution. Su Ping chose one of the demon family. He was very much interested in such a beast, one that could be on a par with dragons. The vice chairman was not surprised after seeing that Su Ping went with the beast of the demon family. The confidence Su Ping exhibited along the way had already convinced him that Su Ping was a master trainer. The vice chairman believed that the next test was a mere formality and should not be a problem for Su Ping. After all, Su Ping was a trainer who could help a Moonfrost dragon progress by leaps and bounds. He was more than an adequate master trainer. If the vice chairman had known how long it took Su Ping to train the Moonfrost dragon, he could even calculate how far Su Ping was from becoming a top trainer. Soon, the vice chairman had had the beast of the demon family delivered. This was a 7th rank blood mist spirit. This beast was skilled at spiritual attacks but weak in physical attacks. The blood mist spirit could construct illusions, attack other spirits, and their specialty skill, which was spirit possession. The blood mist spirit could invade another beast and cannibalize the beast spirit. That was quite a tricky one to tackle, amongst all of the 7th rank beasts. On the other hand, blood mist spirits had many natural enemies, for example, beasts of the thunder family, the divinity family and dragons with proficiency to use demon or divine skills. Hiss! The blood mist spirit began to make threatening gestures the second it was released. It was massive, but it didn't have a visible lower body. There was only a large and hideous head with a sphere of blood-red mist above it, which cascaded down like a cape. There were some weird limbs under the head. It was rumored that this species had evolved from the foul breath exhaled by the Abyss Demon King. That statement had been passed down by the Federation and no one was able to verify the specifics. However, the story was still included in the illustrated blood of Astral Pets on the Blue Planet. The onlookers were not worried about the off chance that the beast would lose control, with Fire Lord and Lone Star here. They stayed behind and observed quietly. To the center of the room was a seal which only enclosed Su Ping and the blood mist spirit inside. To be in the same cage with a monster. Except that Su Ping was the monster, not the blood mist spirit. Roar! The blood mist spirit bellowed as it charged toward Su Ping. Su Ping darted an indifferent glance at the blood mist spirit and revealed a small part of his force field. Pouring out from the force field was such coldness and ferocity that the entire area inside the seal was full of a pungent smell of blood. The formerly vicious blood mist spirit came to a sudden halt. Fear appeared on its ugly and twisted face. The pervading smell made the beast feel that it was facing the deepest fears in its heart. Outside the seal, the onlookers were so shocked that they couldn't utter a single word. Trainers would usually have to employ taming skills to contain such a barbaric beast. However, Su Ping didn't do anything more than showing his energy and he successfully tamed the beast. Tong Tong and Zhenxiang remembered the carrion dark dragon, then they understood that Su Ping was the reason for the sudden change in the other creature's behavior. Tong Tong and Zhenxiang watched more attentively, trying to figure out how Su Ping would pass the 7th rank test. They were stuck at this test. Perhaps they would get inspired by him. Having deterred the blood mist spirit, Su Ping stepped over calmly and placed his hand on its head. No more trace of fierceness could be seen on the blood mist spirit's face. The only expression was fear. The blood mist spirit's body mass twitched and the mist was also trembling. Su Ping had decided to do things the simple way, to impart the elementary rules of thunder. To make the blood mist spirit master new skills from the rules of thunder could also be regarded as passing the test. Su Ping invaded the blood mist spirit's mind with his spirit and probed around without scruple. Su Ping immediately found that fearful consciousness. Su Ping gazed at the blood-mist spirit as he sorted out a part of the elementary rules of thunder and imparted that section to the blood-mist spirit. The fear in the blood-mist spirit's eyes turned into a dull look. Since the blood-mist spirit was unable to fight back, it would have to accept what Su Ping was passing on. A large amount of information oozed into its mind. As it received this information, the blood-mist spirit saw something it was afraid of: bolts of lightning. The divine thunder could force back and expel all that was evil, and the blood-mist spirit should be counted in the list. However, at the moment, the blood-mist spirit surely was in close contact with the source of lightning and thunder. The blood-mist spirit felt it was surrounded by countless bolts of lightning. It had become part of the lightning. Fear, dread, and terror, and integration. Hiss! The blood-mist spirit suddenly let out a shrill and loud cry. The onlookers standing outside the seal were startled. Did anything go wrong? What happened next stupefied them all. The blood-mist spirit, which had its head under Su Ping's hand, suddenly produced a thick bloody mist which erupted all over its body. The mist was shaking rapidly, growing and expanding quickly, as if it were going to run wild. But then a crackling sound came from within the blood mist. Lightning flashed. Lightning and thunder rumbled in the scarlet blood fog, like a storm brewing. And the ugly grimacing face of the blood mist spirit was also submerged by the boiling blood mist, and its body expanded several times, turning into a blood-colored thundercloud. Is this? The vice-chairman was taken aback. Master Bai, who was standing next to the vice-chairman, turned pale all of a sudden. Was this a sign of evolution? The high-pitched scream became harsher and louder. The blood mist with bolts of lightning inside was pounding like a powerful heart, rapidly contracting and swelling, and the shrill cry gradually turned into a low voice, or turned into the voice of a completely different creature, to be exact. Whoosh! Two enormous arms grew out from the blood mist. They were two extremely sturdy arms with blood vessels visible on them. In addition, there were some dark lines etched on the arms, which resembled bolts of lightning. The blood mist retracted fast, revealing the blood mist spirit's face. That was a different look from before. The many twisted limbs hanging under the head were gone, merging into two sturdy arms. The lower body of the blood mist spirit had become a tail formed with blood mist. The tail was like a flame pulled towards the ground by gravity. The ugly face had grown wider. The hideousness of that face had been replaced with a more majestic look. There were flashes of lighting visible amid the sphere of blood mist, which was practically the blood mist spirit's head. An entirely new blood mist spirit was standing in front of Su Ping. No one said a word. The blood mist spirit had evolved, after such a short time. That evolution was something that no one had ever seen before. What did Su Ping do? All they could see was that Su Ping placed his hand on the blood mist spirit. He didn't use any known skills and yet was able to do something they could have never expected. Evolution. This was evolution. That was not some low-life beast, but a 7th-rank beast. Less than 15 minutes had passed, starting from the moment that Su Ping placed his hand on the blood mist spirit, to the moment it evolved. He raised his hand and a beast evolved. What was that? It was so shocking that not even the vice-chairman nor Master Bai could believe it, the two top trainers of the association. To make an advanced battle pet evolve was something that only top trainers would be able to do. However, Su Ping had used that skill at a 7th-rank test. Besides, the evolution process happened much faster than ever before. To begin with, Vice-Chairman and Master Bai would need at least half a month to prepare for stimulating an evolution. Neither of them could have done it like Su Ping. Ding Fengchun had a completely transfixed expression as he stood behind them. He had been a master trainer for over 20 years and he had not been able to progress further. He was recently trying to inspire an advanced battle pet to evolve by combining the power of thunder in the training. He was still experimenting at the moment. But Su Ping was already able to do it, and with such ease. Master trainer? No. Su Ping should be a top trainer. Ding Fengchun felt all of his strength had been sucked out. He could not stop his body from shaking. A titled battle pet warrior, and a top trainer. What is he anyway? All the trainers standing there had been stunned speechless. Fire Lord and Lone Star were just as dumbfounded as anyone else. They were battle pet warriors, not trainers. That being said, they had been around trainers long enough to know what they were able to do. Both of them had been working at the headquarters for a long time, and they would chat with Vice Chairman and Master Bai. Fire Lord and Lone Star did have some understanding of training skills. To make an advanced battle pet evolve was a skill that one could only master after becoming a top trainer. Of course, some outstanding master trainers could also do it, but it would take way too long. At least 3 to 5 years. Time was an important indicator in the evaluation of a training skill's value. That was especially true for trainers at the same level. If it took you 3 years to do what others could accomplish in 3 months, you would be deemed as too weak. If time was not an issue, even some 6th-rank trainers could make an advanced battle pet evolve as long as the trainer took care of the battle pet since its infancy, providing guidance throughout a long time. But that could go up to more than a decade. By the time the battle pet did evolve, it would be too late. Chapter 457, Lucky Draw. Within the Seal. The evolved blood mist spirit was shuddering in fear as it faced Su Ping. It didn't even have the slightest courage to move about. The result came as a surprise to Su Ping as well. He merely intended for the blood mist spirit to pick up an inferior skill of the Thunder family. He didn't know that the beast would be so inspired that it would also evolve. Was the blood mist spirit so weak psychologically? I've used those rules of Thunder to train the dog and Inferno Dragon. How come they never evolved? Su Ping turned around and asked the vice chairman, who was still in a daze, "Did I pass the test?" "Did you pass the test?" The vice chairman came back to his senses, but was at a loss for a moment and couldn't come up with an answer. "Of course, you passed the test. You used a top-level skill on a 7th-rank beast. It was like squashing a fly with a wheel." "Mr. Su." The vice chairman opened the seal and walked in. "I wonder who your teacher is," he asked, full of mixed feelings. Su Ping raised his eyebrows. "This again? You wouldn't know even if I told you. Just think of me as self-taught." That is to say, he does have a teacher, the vice chairman thought to himself. The vice chairman nodded. That was a reasonable explanation, not. What would the teacher be like, to make a student a titled battle pet warrior like Lone Star and a top trainer, all at once? The vice chairman couldn't figure it out. None of the legendary battle pet warriors he knew had such abilities. He had never heard of Su Ping's name before. He was a young man with a mysterious background who had sprouted out of nowhere. The vice chairman was glad he didn't accuse Su Ping of what happened earlier. Sure, what Su Ping did was an insult to the headquarters of the Trainers Association. Still, he would rather give up on that pitiful dignity than make that monster their enemy. "Mr. Su, do you want to carry on with the tests? If I'm right, you do have the abilities of a top trainer. I wonder, how long did it take for you to train the Moonfrost Dragon?" the vice chairman asked out of curiosity. "Top? That was unexpected. Just like that? He was identified as a top trainer? That thing? I think I spent half a month working on it." Su Ping gave a vague answer. Half a month? The vice chairman could hardly believe it. Half a month and he gave a complete makeover to the Moonfrost Dragon. The vice chairman stared at Su Ping, wondering if the latter was telling a joke or not. However, it seemed that Su Ping didn't realize how shocking his answer was. Half a month. The vice chairman believed he had to look at Su Ping in a new way. Su Ping was outstanding even among all the top trainers. At least, the vice chairman knew that he couldn't have trained a dragon at the 7th rank to raise it all the way to the 9th rank in half a month. It would take him at least 3 months. That was not counting in the time he had to get the materials and be ready. The vice chairman darted another look at Su Ping. He wasn't sure if Su Ping had given him an accurate answer. Either way, Su Ping's calculation sounded not too far off the mark. Besides, it was unlikely that the blood mist spirit's evolution was an accident. That was to say, it was almost certain that Su Ping was a top trainer. "Mr. Su, do you want to join the headquarters of the Trainers Association?" "You can be our honorary counselor," the vice chairman proposed. "Is this an invitation?" Su Ping wondered. He had just created a disturbance and the vice chairman was inviting him to come on board. He wondered if there was something wrong with the old man's head. Master Bai, Shahaoqi, and everyone else was stunned. None of them could believe that the vice chairman was making that proposal. They had the chairman, the vice chairman, and then the counselors at the headquarters. Anyone with a counselor rank had to be a top trainer. There were merely a dozen counselors at the headquarters. Every counselor enjoyed a distinguished status. In particular, they were entitled to many privileges that would make people envious, right in the Holy Light Base City. To become a counselor was everyone's dream. Ding Fengchun looked more awful than ever. His legs were shaking uncontrollably. If Su Ping were to become an honorary counselor, then forcing him to kneel would be a minor punishment. In the future, if Su Ping were determined to punish him, then his lofty living in the city would go down the drain. He would be more miserable than the guards at the door, unless he could achieve a breakthrough quickly and become a top trainer himself. So, what are the benefits of becoming an chairman? The vice chairman didn't expect that question. This was the first time ever, since he became the vice chairman, for him to hear this question. Benefits? The position itself was something everyone longed for. Usually, when people were given such a chance, they would eagerly express appreciation. No one would ask about benefits. The vice chairman found himself an explanation. Su Ping was from another base city and he appeared to know little about their organizational structure. You would be entitled to many benefits, of course. You can mobilize many resources to facilitate your study and training. You would enjoy every right in the Holy Light Base City. To put it simply, you get to do whatever you want to do. Also, if you become a counselor, many major families will extend invitations and make you their most honorable guest. As a counselor, you will get the chance to work for the legendary battle pet warriors from the tower and build up a relationship with them. You should know how difficult it is to get to know them. The vice chairman finished in one breath and looked at Su Ping smilingly. Su Ping waited quietly but no more words came out. That is it. Ah. Here. The two of them gazed at each other in speechless dismay. The vice chairman was baffled. Did I not say enough or did I use a language you didn't understand? What more do you want? Su Ping was disappointed. None of the so-called benefits could stir up his interest. He didn't need resources to fund his studies nor invitations from any families. As for getting to know legendary battle pet warriors, those people should be the kill targets. Fine. Su Ping heaved a sigh. Those benefits sure sounded enticing for anyone, just not for him. He couldn't ask for more. It was just that this wasn't the place for him. The vice chairman didn't know what to say. Fine? What does that mean? Counselor. This is the counselor position we're talking about. Could you be any less interested? The onlookers had a hard time processing it. The master trainers curled their lips. If it weren't for the fact that they were weaker than the punk, they would have gone there to beat him up. A counselor position is something that we would beg for in our sleep. But this punk is fishing for better benefits. He's unwilling. What? Did he do it on purpose to piss everyone off? Mr. Su, what do you think? The vice chairman asked with a bitter smile. I'm okay with it if you don't need me to do anything, Su Ping said after some thought. So, you want it for free? An honorary counselor doesn't have to do much indeed, but you would have to host a seminar now and then. You would also need to help out if the association has some large-scale job and is short-staffed. The vice chairman carefully phrased his answer. Job? Su Ping was surprised. People could give the headquarters of the Trainers Association an assignment? Soon, he remembered the tower. It seemed that as glamorous as the headquarters of the Trainers Association appeared, they had their share of pressure as well. All the prominent organizations had to shoulder something much more difficult than people expected. Well, I am sorry but I cannot do it, Su Ping answered. He had to run his store and was unwilling to be dragged down by those matters. Running the store was his legitimate job. Everything else was just a hobby. The vice chairman didn't expect that Su Ping would turn him down. He was at a loss for words momentarily. Master Bai, Shahaoqi, and the others were also eyeing Su Ping in a daze. Since you said that I have the abilities of a top trainer, then give me a medal. That way, I will have easier access here, Su Ping said. He would have saved himself all the trouble if he would have had a top trainer medal back then. You rarely meet someone nice when you're a humble and vulnerable man. Everyone around you treats you horribly. But you don't find evil people around you when you enjoy a high status. Everyone is nice to you. You don't hear any bad words nor witness a single sneer. The vice chairman wanted to say something else to Su Ping, but he didn't know what. This was the first time he had to convince someone to accept the counselor position. People would usually have to apply and beg for it. Things were completely different with Su Ping. The vice chairman was someone who had never begged others before. He was clueless since this was completely new to him. Okay. Mr. Su, please think about it some more. We will discuss it later, the vice chairman said. He was smart enough to put this decision off and come back to the subject later. He would clean up his thoughts and find other ways to get Su Ping on board. Su Ping nodded. Do we need to continue the tests? It's unnecessary. If you say so. Su Ping nodded. He had started with the first rank test because he wanted to find out what was required of each rank. Later on, he had collected enough information by inferring from the vice chairman's introductions. He didn't need to do each and every one. That would be a huge waste of time. The system jumped out all of a sudden. Ding! Trainer's reputation score, 100/100. Mission accomplished. Lucky draw begins. Please finish it as soon as possible. Countdown 59:5. Su Ping was startled by the sudden interjection. He quickly browsed through the list of missions and realized he had accomplished that one. So soon? Su Ping was confused. He wondered how the system did the calculation. He got 5 points when he was walking around with Shahaoqi. So, that worked. Did I get the score from all the fighting and the tests? Su Ping asked himself. He looked around. Apart from the vice chairman and Master Bai, there were many other master trainers present. The system didn't jump out when he was fighting. So, that alone was not enough. He believed it had mostly been thanks to the tests. The master trainers had recognized him. Well, the mission was not so difficult after all, Su Ping thought. For anyone else, to become a top trainer would be an almost impossible feat. Luckily, he had finished the system's elementary trainer mission. Su Ping curled his lips. The system's elementary trainer tier was regarded as a top trainer in that world. The system had such mind-boggling standards. Do you have a bathroom here? Su Ping asked the vice chairman. What? The vice chairman didn't see that coming. Sure we do. Follow me. He showed Su Ping the way. No one else had expected such a request at the moment. Su Ping had actually asked directions for the restroom. He didn't seem to be in a hurry. What a whimsical person. There was one close by. The vice chairman stopped by the door. Wanna go together? Su Ping asked. Here? No, thanks. As you wish. Su Ping nodded. He went inside to draw his prize. Chapter 458, Enlightening Guide. The virtual roulette appeared. Start, Su Ping said. The roulette spun, faster and faster. Su Ping counted to 7 and stopped the roulette. The roulette slowly came to a stop. A dark purple scroll jumped out. Congratulations! The host has won a scroll of the Elementary Enlightening Guide. Collect or not? Enlightening Guide? What a pleasant surprise. That was the only skill he had not mastered as an elementary trainer, based on the system's standards. He could inspire a pet's talent with the Enlightening Guide. A pet's talent was something that sounded miraculous according to the system. Su Ping could not wait to find out. Collect. The host has obtained the Agility Guide, a part of the Elementary Enlightening Guide, the system explained. Su Ping saw that purple scroll enter his storage space. His consciousness touched the scroll and immediately sucked the scroll in. Absorb. Su Ping absorbed it without hesitation. The dark purple scroll disappeared. In the next second, Su Ping felt a surge of complicated information flowing into his mind. He could see many strange and mysterious images. There were images of monsters and strange earthworms, and there were vast, complicated messages that were simple and mysterious at the same time. It was a feeling that could only be understood but not explained. Su Ping lost himself in the ocean of information. A long while later, Su Ping opened his eyes. The former confusion in his eyes was substituted by utter astonishment. An extraordinary talent. The one who created the enlightening guide was an extraordinary talent unequaled by his contemporaries. This is the first time that I learn about a life's potential. No wonder it's called the enlightening guide. Every living creature can be enlightened. This is the agility guide. Will it help a pet get some skills in that regard? Su Ping was itchy to try on the dark dragon hound. But this was the right time. Since he was in the bathroom, the dog might like the place. However, with so many people outside, he could not stay there for long. Su Ping calmed himself down and went out. What's taking him so long? Did he fall into the toilet? Hush. Be careful. If he could hear you, you'd have to pray he wouldn't mind. If he does, you would find yourself in serious trouble. People were waiting in the room for the 7th rank test. Su Ping had gone to the bathroom much longer than he should have. Much longer than taking number 1. The vice chairman was getting bored. He had sent out many messages while he waited. He notified the chairman about the top trainer. This was not a minor event. In the past, every time they discovered a top trainer, they would notify all the media and publish the news all across the Holy Light Base city. Sorry about that, said Su Ping to those waiting for him. They stopped their chattering as Su Ping finally came out. The vice chairman went over with a smile. Mr. Su, I've requested for your medal to be readied and to register your information as a top trainer. But the medal is custom-made, so you will have to wait for a couple of days. You can talk to the designer about what you want on the medal. Su Ping didn't care about the style. He merely wanted the privileges that came with the medal. Whatever the style is, it'll be fine. Just get it done quickly, Su Ping said. The vice chairman once again didn't know what to say. The medal would have to stay with him for the rest of his life. How about I tell the designer to make the Moonfrost Dragon the major element of your medal? The vice chairman asked. The Moonfrost Dragon? Su Ping raised his eyebrows. He had Joanna train the Moonfrost Dragon while he rarely trained it himself. Besides, compared to the little skeleton, the Moonfrost Dragon was still too weak. I'd like to use the image of my store on the medal, Su Ping answered after some thought. If he had to choose something, the store would be the top choice. The store was his support and the thing that changed his life. The store! The vice chairman could not believe that anyone would use such a tacky element on the medal. That would not look good. Trainers would usually choose the likeness of the best pet they had trained as part of the medal's design. Well, is there a problem? Not at all. Are you sure? I am sure. Okay, the vice chairman agreed. Su Ping turned to the crowd and soon he found his target. Get over here, he said to that person. Ding Fengchun trembled while hidden in the crowd. He knew he couldn't get away. He felt even more embarrassed the moment everyone turned their gazes his way. If he had not meddled, he would still be a person that even the other master trainers revered, one that even top trainers would respect. At this moment, though, he could tell the others had changed their views about him. He regretted what he had done so much that he wanted to smash his head into a wall. If only his tongue were less long. He still failed to realize that if it were a person other than Su Ping, his willful talk could have ended that person's life. In that case, the one who died unavenged would be another person. It was just that this day, he was the one suffering. You don't need me to tell you what to do, right? Su Ping asked. He no longer held a grudge against that person. To Su Ping, Ding Fengchun was just a complete stranger with no value. He had told Ding Fengchun to come out because he wanted people to know that when there was a bet, No party could get out without facing the consequences. Ding Fengchuan's face became clouded. He turned to the vice chairman, trying to beg for help. With an embarrassed expression, the vice chairman turned away from Ding Fengchun. There was nothing he could do. Ding Fengchun was the one who made the bet. Ding Fengchun then turned to Master Bai. But Master Bai kept a straight face. He did not like Ding Fengchun at this moment. He wouldn't have offended Su Ping if it weren't for Ding Fengchun. He was very close to making a fool of himself. Considering Su Ping's strength, he didn't have to think twice to figure out that Su Ping's background was powerful. Ding Fengchun had almost set Master Bai against Su Ping. Ding Fengchun was sad, seeing that neither the vice chairman nor Master Bai wanted to defend him. In the end, he made up his mind and dropped to his knees, but he said nothing. Su Ping darted a glare at him. If not for the vice chairman, I would have already killed you. Do you know that? Ding Fengchun trembled. Yes, I do know. This young man here is a ruthless one. He did not hesitate to kill. The most important thing was that the young man had such powers. That was why he was willing to kneel and afraid to continue to upset Su Ping. He felt sorry and resentful, but he had not lost his mind. Where there is life, there is hope. I am sparing you just because of the vice chairman and other trainers. After all, to let people know that a master trainer died because of being free with his tongue would be ridiculous, Su Ping went on coldly. Frustrated as he was, Ding Fengchun stayed there without talking back. Indeed, he couldn't control his mouth. He was blue with regret. The vice chairman was smiling bitterly. Ding Fengchun had been forced into a humiliating position. On the other hand, this should be a warning to the other trainers. After all, there were quite a few trainers who abused their powers like Ding Fengchun. That was not a problem that could be solved any time soon. Carry on with your work. Master Bai, go and set up a new venue for the conference. I have other things to talk about with Mr. Su, the vice chairman ordered. Master Bai nodded. He gave one final, troubled look at Su Ping. The others stared at Ding Fengchun, who was on his knees in front of Su Ping. Ding Fengchun had always been looking down on others, and yet, this day, he had lost all of his dignity. Everyone could feel the authority of the young man who couldn't be offended. He was not only a top trainer but also a titled battle pet warrior. He was a person who was even more horrifying than Lone Star and Fire Lord. Master Bai told people to leave. The vice chairman also told Ding Fengchun to leave. To have him stay on his knees would not look good for the vice chairman, either. Su Ping didn't complain. He had vented his anger. The vice chairman took Su Ping to his office. Mr. Su, are you really not joining us? The vice chairman extended his invitation again. He valued Su Ping, and the powers he stood for even more. He had never heard of anyone who could be proficient in being both a trainer and a battle pet warrior. He was dying to find out about Su Ping's background. Not for now. Su Ping shook his head, but he did leave some room for future discussion. The vice chairman heaved a sigh. He didn't push Su Ping and instead started on another topic. It will take several days for your medal to be ready. We have a convention in the base city where we are going to pick out some of the more outstanding young trainers. Are you interested in having a look? You can find someone to be your student, you know. After all, a good student is not that easy to find. Chapter 459, Yearning. Student. Su Ping raised his eyebrows. He was about to say no when he thought of something. The Holy Light Base City was a sacred place for trainers, and one of the most important base cities of the subcontinent district. The economy there was more developed and had a less restrained flow of information. He would spend most of his time at the store in the Longjiang Base City, where he wouldn't receive information timely. The Longjiang Base City was far from the Holy Light Base City. When something sensational happened there, the people from his base city wouldn't even know. This inconvenience went both ways. Also, in this day and age, trainers had the most honorable position. Trainers were more glamorous than battle pet warriors of the same rank. To build up a connection in the circle of trainers should be beneficial for him. Sure. I can take a look. Su Ping nodded. The relationship between a teacher and a student would be firm. Su Ping was talking to the vice chairman and he and Shahaoqi were acquaintances. However, he had just met the two and had not built up a close relationship yet. At the same time, since he had to take care of the store, he had little time to get to know the two. But a student would be different. The student would have to stay with him and would somewhat count as a member of his family. The vice chairman smiled. We're going to choose the first place and second place winners in the next couple of days. The other top trainers and master trainers will go and pick students as well. You can offer an invitation to anyone you like. Those participants are eager to learn from top trainers. Good. Su Ping nodded. You come from a distant place. I suppose you haven't found accommodations yet. How about I arrange that for you? Okay. Thanks. Shahaoqi had 2 daughters and Su Ping was a young man. It could be inconvenient for him to continue living there. At the same time, the conference was resumed. It was held in another venue. As for the previous fights, upon receiving the vice chairman's approval, Master Bai told the public that it had been an internal conflict and covered up the facts. Su Ping had passed the tests and had been identified as a top trainer. It wasn't a lie to say that he was one member of the Trainers Association. To classify the nature of the fights as an internal conflict would in a way save the dignity of the headquarters. At least for the public in general, they wouldn't be able to tell that it had been an outsider who had shown up and bullied the Trainers Association. As for internal conflict, it was nothing strange. All families had internal conflicts. Internal conflicts were trivial matters. Although, in this internal conflict, a titled battle pet warrior and a young master of the Xiao family had died. A building that had gone through the tests of time, full of master trainers' portraits, had collapsed, that was still acceptable. After all, what could be done even if they didn't accept it? Life had to go on. Cutting losses in time was the right way to go. The 2 deceased had died an unworthy death, though. After all that happened, the conference didn't go smoothly. No one could focus their minds on the conference. They would think about Su Ping every now and then. The young man who had emerged from nowhere had left such a deep impression that no one could erase the previous conflict from their thoughts. Su Ping didn't participate in the conference. The vice chairman took the chance to introduce him to other top trainers. Su Ping was then officially seen as one of the top trainers. The top trainers Su Ping met were quite friendly and they spoke nicely to him. The top trainers were familiar with each other. Even though their fields of study were different, everyone was on good terms. After all, they were all men with some standing. They knew better than to incur hatred and knew full well what to say. Master Bai was also a kind top trainer. Of course, his kindness was limited to people of the same circle. The vice chairman introduced and praised Su Ping. As such, the top trainers made note of him. They had to remember him, a top trainer who was quite young. They even saw him with more astonishment and kindness when they heard that Su Ping had inspired a blood mist spirit within one move. The vice chairman also told them about the Moonfrost Dragon. The praise they offered to Su Ping was sincere. He could tell that the vice chairman was indeed fond of him. Someone was unable to fight back the urge to ask Su Ping's age. Su Ping answered honestly. A man would not mind telling others his age. When they heard that Su Ping was 19, everyone, including the vice chairman, first gasped and then burst into laughter. They found Su Ping very humorous and narcissistic. A 19-year-old top trainer? Who are you trying to kid? Anyways, a humorous man would always be liked. After this joke, the top trainers were even more willing to befriend Su Ping, someone who was approachable. Because of their reaction, Su Ping also felt that apart from being able to say nice words, those top trainers were quite funny as well. In half a day, Su Ping's name was known all across the headquarters of the Trainers Association. The first ones to hear about the name were the top trainers. They knew that they were welcoming a new member. But they had yet to find out what was that new member's field of study. Afterward, the master trainers learned about Su Ping as well. Apart from the master trainers who had met Su Ping, the others had heard about the new top trainer as well and that he was from another base city. The new one was able to wield both the pen and the gun. The top trainer was also a powerful titled battle pet warrior. That was a fact. However, as more people heard it, they started to treat the fact as a piece of rumor. But Su Ping's fame was still spread. As for the other regular trainers, they heard about a new top trainer. They didn't even know the name, but that didn't stop them from discussing the new one heatedly. After all, the birth of a top trainer would stir up a great sensation, even in the Holy Light base city. Every year, the base city would witness the birth of 1 or 2 master trainers, but the top trainers were still few and far between. In the evening, Shi Haoqi went back home. "Dad, are you alone?" Zhenxiang ran to the door when she heard her dad arrive. She couldn't help but look behind Shi Haoqi. However, she didn't see Su Ping. "What?" Shi Haoqi said grumpily, "Of course. What? Do you think I'm coming home with a stepmom for you?" His wife passed away early. Throughout the years, he had been toiling and moiling to raise his 2 daughters. Humph. Zhenxiang rolled her eyes. She knew that her dad was just making fun of her. She and Tong Tong didn't mind their dad finding a better half, but he was never up for it. "What I meant to ask is, where is that guy?" Zhenxiang rephrased her question. Shi Haoqi realized she was talking about Su Ping. What happened in the day came rushing back to his mind. So many things had happened that he couldn't even digest all the information. Exhausted, Shi Haoqi answered, "The vice chairman has arranged accommodation for him. He no longer needs to come here. Besides, he is a top trainer. Living here is beneath him." Zhenxiang was disappointed. Spiritless, she went back to the living room. Tong Tong heard the conversation as well, and the disappointment in her eyes couldn't be concealed. "That's for the best. No one wants him here." Shi Haoqi smiled. His 2 girls were bad liars. He has shown you that beyond an able man is always another able man. You were always proud about your talents. Now you know what a talent is like. Work hard. If you want to see him, you can. He lives in the Longjiang base city. I know his address. When you're free, you can go there for a trip and visit him. To befriend someone like him will never be a mistake. Longjiang. The 2 girls committed that name to their memories. That was the first time that they had developed an interest in a base city outside the Holy Light base city. Su Ping came from that base city. What was it like? Chapter 460, Selecting Students. 2 days had passed. Su Ping spent the past 2 days in the library at the headquarters, looking through the works left behind by various trainers. As a top trainer, he had access to all the books and works. Of course, some of the out-of-print works were not included. Even top trainers would have to collect enough merit points to be able to get a chance to read those works. Su Ping had to turn to the vice chairman, who was still working, to invite him to join the association to give him access. Without hesitation, the vice chairman paid the points. It wouldn't cost many points, and Su Ping would owe him a favor. Su Ping had gained a more comprehensive understanding of trainers after reading those precious works. The theory and the working mechanisms of many trainer skills were quite intricate. Su Ping realized that he could develop some of the skills with his abilities. Those works and books had enriched Su Ping's pool of theoretical knowledge. No wonder the blood mist spirit could evolve. Blood mist spirits are born to be afraid of thunder. However, that blood mist spirit had a chance to know the underlying theory of thunder. In that process, the blood mist spirit came in contact with the thing it most feared. Indeed, that would leave a mark. If I impart the rules of thunder to other beasts that are normally afraid of thunder, there will be a great chance that those beasts will also evolve. Su Ping found the methods to make a pet evolve in one of those books. To create a stimulus by working on the pet's fears was one of the methods. For example, a beast of the water family that was afraid of fire would either die quickly or evolve when entering a world of fire. Normally, the chances of death would be greater. However, if there were trainers who could offer instructions, there would be a greater chance that the beast would mutate and evolve. My dog and dragon have died in the cultivation sites too many times and have been through much stronger stimulation. They have already learned the skills of other families. To propel evolution with this method would be hard for them. Of course, there's still a chance. However, the dog's bloodline has evolved after receiving the Dragon King's legacy. Its bloodline is second only to the little skeleton's bloodline. The dog can reach beyond the legendary rank without any hindrance. At the moment, the one with the weakest bloodline is the purple python. Its upper limit is the 6th rank. To reach a rank higher will be hard. The purple python is not as lucky as the dog, since it got the legacy of a higher being. I'll have to find its weakness. It is just that its weakness is hard to find. Su Ping was not in a rush to make the purple python evolve. After all, with a better bloodline, the purple python would climb higher on the ranks as well. In that case, he would have to double down on his effort to give the purple python an above-average aptitude. He would rather train a 6th-rank pet than a Beast King pet to make sure that it would attain an aptitude rated as above average. Su Ping decided to let the purple python stay as it was. After all, some requirements of the system were based on aptitude as the threshold. For example, he could only open up a professional training service after he had a pet with an above-average aptitude. Su Ping did not know if the system's standards would become higher in the future. He decided to let the purple python stay at the 6th rank just to be safe. Take the dog as an example. After the dog's rank climbed higher, the dog's aptitude rating had dropped. Of course, its combat strength had increased. And yet, the increase was not on a large scale. To make sure that the dog's aptitude rating could rise again, Su Ping would have to have the dog go through a much stricter training on the 3rd day. The vice-chairman visited Su Ping early in the morning. It was the finals of the trainers' competition. The deciding game. There would be an award ceremony once the results were announced. Then, the top trainers would go and pick students. The media would be present live streaming the event. In the past, the real finale would take place when the top trainers went to fight for students. After all, being able to get outstanding students would help to spread the top trainers' influence as well, because the students could grow to be master trainers or even top trainers in the future. The top trainers were the ones who stood at the peak of the trainers' pyramid. The ones that were more outstanding than top trainers were the Holy Spirit trainers that only existed in stories. There were no more Holy Spirit trainers in the subcontinent district. The last Holy Spirit trainer had passed away over 100 years in the past. With no Holy Spirit trainer present in the current century, whenever a legendary battle pet warrior wanted to have a Beast King trained, he or she would have to go to another subcontinent district and pay a large sum of money to get a Holy Spirit trainer to help. Sometimes, the legendary battle pet warrior would have to agree to many outrageous terms. There were merely 2 Holy Spirit trainers in the whole world, and they were both found in other continents. Top trainers were the most prominent ones as well in the Holy Light Base City. Some of the younger top trainers who were about 50 years of age were still working to become Holy Spirit trainers. The older trainers who had passed the 100-year threshold had already given up on such unrealistic aspirations. The difference between top trainers and Holy Spirit trainers was bigger than that between titled and legendary battle pet warriors. The top trainers would rather teach more outstanding students than work to become Holy Spirit trainers themselves. They could increase their presence in the circle of trainers if their students could grow to be master trainers. The vice-chairman gave Su Ping a ride to the venue. On the way, the vice-chairman showed Su Ping the videos of the top 10 performances so that he would have more options. The top 3 players that were competing that day were included in the videos as well. That way, Su Ping would be able to know them better. Su Ping watched the videos one by one. Su Ping was surprised to see that the trainers' competition was not boring at all. It was just as intense as the Battle Pet Warriors competitions. There were no bellows, nor shouts, and yet the practice of various training skills was quite thrilling as well. So, anyone you like? The vice-chairman smiled. The top trainer would not merely look at the participants' skills, but their personalities as well. They are all very good, Su Ping answered. What? The vice-chairman looked at him. None of them was good enough for Su Ping? As a matter of fact, Su Ping honestly thought all the participants were quite outstanding. Some of them clearly weren't displaying their full abilities, so Su Ping couldn't gauge the limit of their strength. Some of the other participants had to give their best efforts, and yet several barely passed the last round and several were eliminated. He didn't plan on finding a student among the participants of the second group. Soon, they arrived at the venue. The venue was the largest stadium in the Holy Light district. Other top-level competitions would be held there as well. That stadium was the best there was in the Holy Light base city. Not everyone could have the right to host an event there. There was a sea of people inside. All seats were occupied. But contrary to the Battle Pet Warriors competitions, no one cheered. The audience just whispered. Still, given the fact that there were over 100,000 people present, their whispers amounted to a noise.